This is an interesting case study in San Diego of excessive groundwater causing chronic issues, and how right now some of the trends that are developing is that these underground rivers are starting to reveal themselves, and some of these properties have very specific concentrated flows coming through their property, and like they're built on top of an old river or something to that effect. This is a Miramar area near Black Mountain, which has had chronic groundwater issues, and it's still relatively cold, but as the day heats up, water will actually start coming out these cracks in the road. And when I was here to do my consultation, I could do that and water would splash out of the crack. And this is November 23rd, after a long dry summer, had very little rain. And the issue is pretty confounding to people. They don't understand where the water's coming from. And if you notice the flow, you'll have the overwatering, people water, it falls off, but that is not quite reaching the sidewalk. And in this part of the street, there's not really much of a flow coming out of the curb cores. So the houses basically on almost either side of the customer are good, and this customer, who you'll see in a minute, he's got water coming up in the middle of his house. Now, we've previously done French drains along the back and the two sides, and no issue with that part of the house. And typically you wouldn't really need to have French drains in the front of the house here, because it's all basically on the downslope side. But in his particular curb core, there's a significant flow coming out straight out of underneath his property. And one of the curious things about this job is that it is getting noticeably worse by the day, with an active flow. And the assumption is that the properties above will have leaks. And so that's where everybody starts. But most of the time when you test this water, it's going to test negative for chlorine, meaning that it is coming from rainwater or groundwater. Part of the issue is this. The garage floor is a thinner concrete than the house. So the house is sitting on structural concrete, and the garage is poured afterwards. So during construction, this would have all been dirt when they poured the house slab. And then they do this in a separate pour, so it's half as thick as the house. So it's a vulnerable point for water to intrude. And it typically would not be an issue with the French drains on the back, except for this house is built on a spring, a river bed. Water is coming straight through it. And so it becomes more of a whack-a-mole kind of situation. You know, the drains are on the three sides would solve the issue for 90% of the jobs, and for rain, he's in great shape. But when you've got serious groundwater underneath the property, You generally are going to have to do 4 sides of the house in a perimeter style French drain. It's going to have a second sump pump inside the garage that will probably pump water out of the ground every single day until the groundwater subsides. Rainwater Systems, San Diego.